This is Take Two.
How far along are you?
This draft is done. Basically.
Congrats.
Thanks. Well, there's about 35 drafts, so it takes a long time.
Is this draft the final one, hopefully, or no?
It would be the third last one. There'll be 2 more drafts.
Wow.
And then we'll see if it ever...
How long of a process is it?
It depends.
Okay.
Depends.
Like, I've had a few friends of mine, like guests, whatever, they talk about, like, writing novels and all that. And, like, it really fascinates me, the non-fiction writing industry versus fiction. Because it's true, like, you need to finish the entire draft to then hopefully get funding for it.
With a novel?
With a novel, right? Or it really depends on the publisher.
No, you'd have to write the novel, yeah.
Yeah, versus
For
a
non-fiction, yeah, you can kind of arrive with an idea or a bit of a structure or something, as far as I know. I've never done it that way. So
that's what I heard as well, and like that's really daunting because then like writing a novel takes I don't know. It obviously depends on the person, but it can go from like I feel like it would be easier for me to write non-fiction than fiction.
Non-fiction's easier, yeah.
Non-fiction is so much easier because you just like reflect. It's a journal.
Yeah, there's like non-fiction, like a book about gardening, and
Or
then there's
research.
creative then there's academic, whatever, anything that isn't made up, and then there's creative non-fiction, which would be like essaying or memoir or whatever.
I love those. This year, this year I did this thing. Like my New Year's resolution was to step away from self-help non-fiction. If I'm gonna be
that's another
if I'm
another
reading
genre.
anything that's like gonna help my psychology, I wanted it to be a psychological book, non-fiction book. That has really helped. A. B. The amount of female writers that all of a sudden have landed on my lap because of that is unreal. Unreal. Because before it was just like a bunch of lads talking about confidence and like making your bed and stuff. And
Making
like
your bed.
fully. And whenever you finish the book, you're like, I'm like, I have this inner bitch in me and I need to fix it. I'm making my bed and like, what's wrong with me? Like I'd always walk away inspired for a day and then it ends there. Versus reading female authors has helped me as a woman.
Yeah, it's like one's top down and the other's bottom up. So reading self-help books, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing bad with doing that. But you're receiving information on an intellectual level. So someone's telling you, here's some advice, as opposed to, here's my heart, what resonates with you? Right? And then you learn something. It's like when I used to teach English, the best form of teaching is to elicit from the students like what they already know. So an apple, they might describe the apple, it's a green, it's fruit, whatever, and then they'll be like, okay, it's an apple. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But like, although I guess if they can say it's a green fruit, they can probably say apple at that stage. But the idea is that you bring their own wisdom out of them. You coax it out as opposed to it's an apple. Yeah. And do this. These are good tips for whatever. As opposed to here's my story. And then we learn on the basis of our connection to that rather than like, oh, here's a bunch of information to remember.
Fully. But it's like, before I really used to struggle with like not having a blueprint, but like reading female authors kind of made me understand like feminism. I'm reading stronger women, opinionated women that have succeeded as well. But have also, it's like I'm, especially with the memoirs, it's like I'm getting little bits from everyone's story and applying them to my own life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, fucking beautiful shite, like.
Yeah.
I love being a woman. Like, at the ripe age of 26, I'm okay with it now.
Yeah, it takes a while.
Oh my God, it takes such a fucking long time. It is somewhat on topic, but I interviewed Aoife Barry probably like 2 weeks after you.
She a journalist?
She's a journalist, yes. She had 12 years in a newsroom over at the Journal, I think.
Yeah, that's how I know.
And now she's freelance, and we spoke about her book, Social Capital. Anyways, while reading it, she pointed out this survey where it said that I think it was 91% of women or girls get bullied online. out from cyberbullying. 91% of them are girls. And then it's pinpointed that if these girls showed passion in something, they got bullied even more. And with that statement, she explained that basically girls existing was a problem to them, or like girls were just bullied.
They were bullied
girls.
by boys or by girls?
By boys. If I'm not mistaken, it did say that. But like we spoke a little bit about it, and that piece of information really stuck with me.
Yeah.
That girls just existing is like a problem. And after our conversation, which by the way got deleted, so everyone who's listening and watching, this is round 2.
Oh, the Aoife Barry one got deleted?
No, our one.
Oh, okay.
For
it was just
for
mine.
Context. Sorry?
It was just mine that got deleted.
It's yours that got deleted. It's someone else,
So
Barry, that got her video is lagging. Okay. So the same thing happened basically again.
Yeah.
But this time around with hers, I streamed it on YouTube privately just in case. And the same thing happened.
Huh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But then the stream, because we're underground, the stream wasn't super good with like Wi-Fi because it's working on my phone. So the video is lagging. Audio was fine. Thank God.
Annoying.
Thank
Could you
God.
use the audio?
So now what we're doing this time around is it's recorded on video, on audio, and stream. So there's 3 ways.
That's so annoying for you guys.
It's fine. As in, I learned my fucking lesson, and now it's times fucking 3. Like.
Yeah.
So you live and you learn and all that. But anyway, since then, I recently, like, there was this clip of me reacting to like the Women's Champions League final, and it got like, I'm getting bombarded with hate right now online. And
it's so strange.
It's just like, what is the women's I say like UWCL, and it's just like, what is a women's champions league? Oh, it's women's dishwashing champions league, like women's sports and shit. 400,000 views, like hundreds of comments of that, and goofy passion. That the only viewer, like it's not nice, you know what I mean? It hasn't followed me in that regard, so like I'm fine, safety is fine and all that. But after having that conversation with you, after having my conversation with Aoife, then this happening to me throughout, it's really fucking stuck with me. That like chip on the shoulder type of thing, where it's like a woman existing is a fucking problem.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And it's difficult as well because like women aren't commenting on the clip anymore out of fear of them getting it. And it's like an observation that like I know I'm not the only one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
And it's fucking sad, man. It's really fucking sad. But
I heard about I don't know where I read this, but you know that Andrew Tate stuff and all. Teachers picking up essays from male students and stuff, you know, just collecting homework or whatever it was. I really can't remember the details, but letters written on it, that say MMAS, which stands for Make Me a Sandwich. It's like a code, hilarious joke. I just thought that was so disgusting. It's so horrible. Shocking. It's not even like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I was saying. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm so tired today. I'm sorry.
I am. It's okay. Do you want a coffee?
Not at all. No.
Okay. In fairness, this is a really cozy room, so it doesn't help.
It is cozy. Yeah, it's really cozy.
No, but it is really fucking
gross, isn't it? Really frightening.
It's frightening. That's it. And it's just like these type of spaces have created a safe space. Yeah,
but also the boast is them to take it outside the internet into their real lives.
Horrible. Yeah. But that's where like something has to be put in place, in fairness, you know what I mean? Where even maybe like do you remember watching some really fucking stupid reality shows where they used to take teenagers on some like fucking traumatizing thing where troubled teens were taken to prisons and they were trying to be scared shitless or something like that. Horrible.
Yeah.
imagine if they could take like maybe slight positives of certain situations where it's like, do you understand? Like, put yourself in a girl's shoes, put yourself in a woman's shoes. This is what we have to deal with every day, you know? And it creates such a hostility and such a divide that then when a situation arises similar to like the Aisling Murphy was her name, it's like, then it's not all men, and then a bunch of men feel like they're being attacked, and it's like, well, I don't harass women, I don't do this. Dudes, do you know how often it happens to us? There's a reason why. Sometimes there's a reason why we're hostile. Again, I'm not talking about everyone, but fucking hell, it's tiring. I'm training for a marathon. The amount of times that I come home and shoved against the wall like that, like fully, like I'm walking and not walking, running, slow, and a guy is walking towards me, and then once we pass by, he's like, hello, how are you?
Oh my god.
And you're like, stop, you know? Stop it. I'm moving my body. There was another guy with 6 packs of beer, started jogging next to me.
No, what a little shithead.
And this is 2023, this is a 7 p.m. time, you know, like I don't live in
But it's like
nowhere.
women are public property, right? So that's kind of the vibe. I think.
Exactly. And then it's like, oh, calm down. You're not that pretty, for instance.
It's a bit of a compliment.
Yeah. Oh, man. Anyways. Other than that, you're doing good. Novel's doing fine. Congrats. I know you're a bit sleepy. I really appreciate you coming back for round 2. Like, let's see what the fuck we're going to talk about now. Because I really had fun with that one that we had. So let's start off from the memoir itself, if you don't mind, okay?
Of course.
So the one thing that we did last time is we just went right into it without like giving people context to who you are. Now, I'm not going to make you introduce yourself or anything like that. But your story starts off at 17, right? How did... And you ended up in, like, I wouldn't say prostitution, but like sex work very early on, and you kind of like fell into it really quickly. Can we talk about like the story of it from the start?
Yeah.
Not everything though.
Yeah, it's quite a long story. It's 7 years long.
Very long.
Yes, it was prostitution. I don't call it sex work. So, I mean, to keep it brief, I was raped. After that, a man popped into my life, and he was older. I just watched the most incredible film last night. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Is it of trafficking? Is it about trafficking?
Can I find it?
Let's find it.
I tweeted about it. And on the way in here, I was like, don't forget the name of that film. You have to tell Deb about it.
I'm excited.
Maybe we can watch it later. It's really, really good.
What's it on?
Devastating film. It is called.
It is called.
Any day now, I'll find it. Palm Trees and Power Lines. It only came out in March. Palm Trees and Power Lines. And it's about a 17-year-old girl, who gets groomed by this 34-year-old man. And I was really moved by it because in my experience, when you hear stories of grooming, when it comes to sexual exploitation or sexual abuse or whatever, it's usually a much older man and like a child in the media or films or whatever. And this was really kind of different because it was this 34-year-old really good looking guy who groomed this 17-year-old girl, attempting to groom her into prostitution. And it's just a stunning film how it portrays grooming so realistically, so perfectly. Do you know? Now, I wasn't groomed in the same way because your man, we met via text messaging. I'm not going to go into the whole story of how that happened. No. It's just too long, right?
Read the memoir, guys.
It's just too long a story. But anyway, so
newspaper ad. You reached out.
Yeah. So he was in my phone for about a year when I was around 16 and a half or something. I was having a very hard time because I'd been raped that year or earlier that year, and nobody knew about it. It was really horrendous time. And that was happening. And then at the same time, I was just getting on with everyday life, as you do, and doing normal 16-year-old activities and things and friendships and all the rest and family stuff or whatever. So it's like after something like that, you just split in two. So you've got these two kind of lives happening. One's very internal and private and nobody knows about it. And the other one is like kind of surviving life and having good times here and there, but more or less sort of getting on with it. So this split happens. Anyway, then your man came along and was texting me loads for about a year. On and off. But he was very... I'll just try and keep it brief. He was very controlling. He was very dominating. Like, I knew it was sexual. I was never like, oh, this is my new boyfriend. Like, it was never like that. For me, it was like, oh, this other part of me that's now been really broken and really hurt is getting attention, and any attention is good attention when some part of you is hurting, right? So this was all just felt really fun and an escape as well for that part of me that was in such pain. And to feel like my sexuality had a value as well was very, it was kind of intoxicating nearly, I'd say. Like, it was so powerful to the point where I'd be wanting him to text me. And if I didn't hear from him for a while, for a few weeks, I'd text him. I knew it was shady, and I knew it was a sexual motivation for him. That was very obvious. And the things he was texting
you knew
about.
it was wrong what he was doing.
I didn't know it was wrong what he was doing, but I knew it was sexual. But I didn't think it was wrong. No, I didn't think it was wrong.
Wow.
No.
So
no, I was a kid. Like, I didn't know.
If we were now, obviously this didn't happen because we're talking about the past here. But if you were found out in that moment in time, if someone picked your phone, right, and they were like, "What the fuck are you doing? This dude is a creep." Do you think you would have defended him? Like, did you think that like what he was doing was not wrong at all?
Well, I would have been really embarrassed.
Besides,
that would have been my main thing. That's
Yeah.
why I would have tried to hide it, not because I would have been like, "Oh, we're doing something wrong," because the contents of the messages he sent me were so explicit.
Probably why you didn't speak up either as well. It is the embarrassment.
Yeah, well,
too.
there's nothing to tell. You know, as far as I was concerned, this was just my private life, and there was
Wow.
nothing to tell anybody about. You know.
Yeah.
I remember being on holidays once when I was 16, in the summer, and he was texting me, and you know, mobile phones are new and everything when I was 16 anyway, and for some reason I was using my mom's phone to text him.
Wow.
Because I had to text him all the time. It was like, if I didn't reply, he'd get pissed off. He'd be grumpy and angry. He was kind of, his general state of relating to me was annoyed and grumpy and giving out. Like, that was...
Amazing features to have.
Yeah. And the more, but that's kind of what he got off on, you know.
Yeah.
And then the more I got dependent on his attention, the more grumpy is such a stupid word, but the more controlling and abusive kind of he got. But at that stage, I just kind of wanted his attention that I didn't. This just kind of formed, right?
Yeah.
But I was away for my nephew's baptism and abroad somewhere, and he was texting. For some reason, I was using my mom's phone. My phone probably didn't work or something there. And my mom got the phone and was like, "Who's this?" And I grabbed it off her. I was just like, grabbed it off her. And I can't even repeat what he said.
Yeah.
It was like a joke. It wasn't, thank God it wasn't anything too bad, but it wasn't great.
Okay.
And it's actually too hard to say it.
Yeah.
But I didn't even write it in the book, you know, because I was like, that's a bit too close to home. You know, that's not too close to
I
home.
think it's also a parent as well. Like, you want to protect them too.
Yeah. It was too, yeah, rough. But yeah, I remember, oh my God, the panic, like, to get the phone off her. But yeah, so anyway, he kept texting me. That went on for ages. Sorry, this is difficult, like, to keep the chronology of this straight in my head. But it went on and on anyway. Then eventually he was like trying to get me to see him. I was 17 when I saw him for the first time, and I agreed. I went out to a house somewhere, and he told me what to wear. He told me how to do my hair, all this kind of stuff. I got out there, and then he made me do my hair and stuff and wear certain, so he's into schoolgirl. That was one of his main things, was the fact I was in school and that I had a school uniform. He loved that.
Gross.
And he was, so he was in his, I would say, like, I have no idea how old he was, but he was definitely over 30 and probably under 50. So, I mean, I can't really remember. But he was a youngish man, right? But he was in his 30s. I think that's my memory of it. Like, that's what I've always said. So I presume that's true.
It's interesting though as well, because when you're a teenager, it's like anyone that
anyone's like over 25 is like
it's just old.
Yeah, it's just old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and now we're in like closing to the 30s and all.
And now, like, for me now, like, I'm nearly 40 and like 65. I'm like, okay, that's kind of getting old, I suppose. You know, I wouldn't be thinking.
Completely digressing, but like, now that you're nearing 40, how do you feel mentally? Like, do you still feel like you're kind of at like 27, 28?
Yeah, I feel way younger than my age. I don't know how you're supposed to feel when you're 39.
Yeah.
But I feel way younger than my age. And I think I'm also the youngest of a large family as well. I think that could be part of it or whatever.
True.
Also, I'm trapped in trauma time the whole time. I'm stuck back there. So, yeah, it's a good expression, trauma time, that you kind of get stuck.
Sorry, I'm not supposed to laugh at it, but that's a good
You get
one.
stuck in trauma time, so you kind of get stuck in the place that traumatized you the most. So there's lots of young elements to me, I suppose. That are still looking for things to be sorted out or needs that haven't been met or whatever. But anyway, I'm not going to go into what happened with him, but when I was leaving the house, he made me wear the stupid school uniform thing, I think, on that first time. I think he did. And then when I was leaving the house, he gave me 2 £50 notes, and he was like, that's some pocket money. And then I left and was like, oh, that was easy for £100. And I was really happy to have this money. It was great, because £100 when you're 17 is just like loads of money. So what happened in that moment was that all the discomfort that had gone, to put it mildly, that had gone before, and my feelings about him, because I didn't like him. I didn't like the way he dragged me around the room with my hair, and it wasn't good, right?
Yeah.
But it now turns it into a job that I did for him, that he paid me for and compensated me for. It also bought my silence. And it also, the main thing was, and this is what abusers do, they make you complicit in the abuse. So it's like, well, if you didn't do that, if you didn't look so sexy, I wouldn't have done that to you. If you didn't do this, then I wouldn't have. That's how abusers work. So the money made me complicit. Well, you took the money, all that was happening unconsciously, of course. Consciously, I was just like, oh, that's handy, £100. So then that carried on. Then for 3.5 years of meeting him every now and then in hotel rooms all around Dublin, he progressed to taking photos of me. I can't really remember when that started happening.
You don't need to talk, I don't want you to like go into it, because I understand how uncomfortable it is, in fairness. But it's like, what I found really interesting about your... I don't mean to interrupt you. If you do want to talk about it, go on. How, in inverted commas, easy, I don't know if the term is easy, but like, this spiraled into something that you didn't expect after this man.
Oh, yeah. So, like, that went on for 3.5 years. I was growing to hate him more and more and more. I was in college then. Oh, yeah. So, actually, one of the main turning points was, like, he sent me out to this old man, friend of his, in a hotel. And I went there and didn't want to go there, but I was like, it's all, even now, if something's been all arranged, I struggle to get out of it, and be like, I think it's a pretty human thing, but I'll be like, oh, like it's all sorted now. I can't say no now. And also, they were like adults.
Yeah. And
I was 19 at this stage, so I was an adult too, but not really. But it's kind of like that thing of like, do what the grown-ups are telling you to do, and you can't annoy them. Do you know that whole thing kids have anyway? So I went out there, didn't want to be there. Wanted the money, in fairness, because what the money was doing for me was giving me a sense of worth and value. So that was a real hook for me. It was like the major hook for me was like, this is like tangible evidence. This £100 is tangible evidence of my worth as a human being and of my sexuality having worth. It was doing the inverse, obviously, but it didn't feel like that, and it felt really like powerful in a way. But that really came later on. So this old man, terrible time. He was really abusive. It was horrific. It was really humiliating as well. And I remember lying there. So he was just put me in this certain position, and then I couldn't see him, but I could hear him, and he was having a wank. And I remember being like, I'm not able to move. Like, of course I could have physically moved, but actually I couldn't. My whole nervous system had completely frozen. So I was just stuck there. And I was like, had to endure this like extraordinary humiliation of him wanking. And somehow in that moment was like this turn of like, oh, you can endure this, because it was incredibly painful as well. He was really abusive. So it was like, I was in a lot of pain. I was there, I was trapped, I was enduring. And this humiliation. And I feel like that was the moment I was like, you can endure this. Because that was the first time I did that as a kind of a job, right? Or I was going there for 1 hour to do this for this much money. Whereas with the other guy, it was more like, it wasn't a relationship in the way we understand relationships, but it was a relationship in that I would see him all the time, or whenever, every couple of months or whatever. And an ongoing contact with somebody, right? And that was kind of up to him how long I was there for, or whatever happened, you know. With this, it was a one-off situation, so it just felt like a job I was doing, and that was a real turning point for me. Then I was getting more and more annoyed at this guy, the original guy. I never saw the old man again, thank God, because that was like really traumatizing. I was making more friends, and I was like in first year in college, and that was great, and I got rid of him. I kept cancelling on him and stuff like that. And then one day I cancelled on him for the last time, and he showed up to my house, and that was really frightening. And then when I cancelled one day, and then I thought, okay, no, he's not coming near my home again. I moved house to like to the parallel street, but still I moved house. And and then, don't know how this happened. I have no memory whatsoever. Like, I don't have a single. This was before like we had Wi-Fi and stuff at the home, or smartphones, or even your own laptop. You know, you would use the like computers in college to write your essays and stuff. Fully. Like, only really fancy people had laptops, like, or if you were doing graphic design or something. I went to art college, and like for fine art you didn't really need a computer unless you were making films, and so didn't have a laptop and or a computer or anything. I don't know how, or even the internet. I don't know how I researched this. I don't know what happened to me. I just know that I ended up selling sex, putting ads on the internet and selling sex.
Wow.
Yeah, but I don't remember any of it. I do remember coming home one night, this little man was walking behind me. He's in the book, actually. It's my only thing. I don't even know if this is when this happened, but like I was just thinking, well, that happened at some point, so probably it happened before I did all the rest of it. But he he wasn't following me. He just happened to be walking along behind me. He was fine, like he wasn't dangerous or anything. And we ended up talking, and then he came into my house. I gave him a cup of tea. I gave him a blowjob. Like, this is just how disconnected I was from myself. Yeah. Like, I was also very in the rest of my life, like having sex with people, whoever really wanted to have sex with me, more or less. Like I was so disconnected, you know, from myself and from my body. Like, my body for me was just this thing that didn't matter, and it didn't matter what happened to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how.
Like, correct me.
Yeah.
But like, from an outside perspective, it's as if the rape that happened to you when you were 16, and then like getting paid for that, for meeting up with the first guy. Yeah. It was as if like, listen, if I'm gonna do something, might as well fucking get paid for it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I needed the money to make myself feel like I missed the money.
Yeah.
And it feels really dirty to, you know, talking about money always feels gross, but like I don't really feel gross anymore talking about it, because it is what it was. Yeah. Like, I felt like I needed the money to make myself feel better about myself. And then I would spend it on shit, makeup, whatever, just to get rid of it, because I didn't like having it hang around. Or
get rid of it.
Yeah, get rid of it immediately. Yeah, it was instant. It was
so
like
it wasn't
drug.
like
it was
you
like
were
a drug.
like keeping up a money jar to pay rent or something.
No.
Gotcha.
I was no, and the odd time I'd use it to pay a bill or something like that, or buy food. That never really sat well with me.
Wow.
I always wanted to get rid of it. One time I bought Christmas presents or something with money I got. I spent 2 hours with this guy, so I had 500 quid, and this was right before Christmas, and I was like, perfect. So I bought a certain, I can't remember now the details, but I bought a present for somebody anyway, and my mom asked me, where'd you get the money for that or something? I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't her. I don't know who it was. Where'd you get the money for that? And I said, oh, I saved up for it. And I felt really disgusting inside myself. I felt really gross. Even though I did a job, right, major inverted commas, got paid for it. It was my money. It felt disgusting to say that, for that to be. It was like that split, you know, this version of me is suddenly seeping into the part of me that's surviving, right? And I was like, no, you have to get back over there into the shadowland again.
Like you kind of knew that you, like, you didn't want the two
instinctively, yeah, absolutely. My body was like, oh, you can't. That's gross. But yeah, so then I ended up, this guy, anyway, gave him a blowjob, and I was like, oh, I'm an escort. And I just said it.
Wow.
Crazy. I just said it. I was about 20, 21. I can't remember how old I was.
What was the turning point? Because this then became your life, a side of your life.
Yeah, tiny part of my life.
Yeah, until the age of 24.
Yeah, ish, yeah. I really can't remember stuff properly. I was around 24.
What was the turning point for you?
To stop? Oh, the other thing is that the same with the abuser guy, I would sell sex whenever I felt like I wanted the money, which made me feel good, right? Which made me feel good about me and made me feel like I was a person of value or whatever. And it made me feel powerful. So the other motivator was like, after being abused for so long, I was like, I am now going to set the terms and conditions of what happens to my body. I'm going to have the power and control here. So I had control over things like when I met them, where I met them, if I would go to their house or not, if I would go to their hotel, whatever, and for how long. And I would sort of get to choose who it was. You know, you'd kind of, when someone rings you, you'd get a bit of a vibe, but you can't really tell if someone's going to attack you or not or whatever, or what way they're going to be. So for me, that was like the surface level, superficial sense of I'm in control. I've got sexual autonomy and I'm sexually in control of myself.
Boss,
yeah, exactly. Hashtag girl boss. Yes.
CEO.
Yeah. Stop. Yeah. Stop it. Yes. All of that was the surface. In my cognitive kind of conscious understanding was like, this is good for me, right? But of course I had no control. I had no power and control whatsoever. The man had total power and control over me. But that was one of my motivators, I suppose, to feel empowered over my own poor, broken sexuality that had been so fucked over for so long and didn't ever really get a chance to be anything. It had always been abuse from the first moment anyone touched me. So, that went on. And it was very sporadic. So it was whenever I felt like, oh, I need a hit of that self-worth sensation, or I need to feel valued, or I just fancy having some extra cash or whatever. So it's very sporadic. And then I went out to a punter in an apartment block, and that was a really, really terrible experience, this guy. It's very dramatic in the book. He's like the first chapter, you know.
Again, it's a very good book. Like,
I wanted to get the drama, the end at the beginning. For some reason, I just felt instinctively drawn to write it from front to back nearly. To
honestly,
kind of weirdly to get it out of the way or something.
It's the best thing. And I feel like even the way I'm approaching this conversation, it's like, let's get this out of the way nearly.
Yeah.
And then the hot takes come towards, not even the end, but like halfway on. Then it's like, okay, this is me. Cool. Let's talk about like other women now.
Yeah. And it's even like, I think it's, the story is told, and then I think there's that comfort women chapter about the stuff. And then I think the rest of the story happens, if I'm right. I can't really remember.
Like you go back and forth. No, the way it's written, the way you wrote that fucking book, I've never seen it before. But again, you had told me what it was. Was it fucking second person, first person, something?
Oh, the second person. Yeah, you go to an apartment. Bloody.
It was so confrontational from like the first page, where it's like it's an uncomfortable read, but if you have the balls for it, sit down and read it. You know what I mean? That's the least you can fucking do.
Yeah,
as a reader.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
a lot of people don't want to read it.
Tough shit.
Yeah.
Genuinely. Like, it's one of those things where it's like tough shit, but like this is the reality.
Yeah.
And like, I wanted to sit through it because you and so many other women have to endure it. It's the least I can do. And I do think that it's a game changer of any dum-dum that wants to talk about like the legalization of prostitution, which we're going to get into. Read the book.
Yeah, thanks.
Or suck a dick.
Thanks. It's bearing witness is what you're talking about there. Like being with the experience without turning away, turning towards it. Yeah, having a courageous heart. So thank you for having a courageous heart.
It's not a courageous thing, man. It's like a fucking bare minimum. But no, like it's very confrontational. Yeah. But like
I had to, and the weird thing is the parts I wrote in the second person helped me distance me from the experience. So I was like nearly talking to about someone else. Whereas for the reader, it's like I'm talking about them. Yeah. That wasn't going through my head. It was an instinct. It was just an artistic instinct just to put it away from me.
Fucking best instinct.
I wouldn't have been able to write it in the first person, you know.
I think it's more effective that way because it might have been easier for you. It's harder for us, but it's like challenging in a good way. You know what I mean? Where like you do understand and you do empathize even more. Like clearly you can tell, and that's what we touched on in our previous conversation, which again I'm really sad that it's fucking not recorded. But like you did say, like people that are talking about like legalizing prostitution and all that shit, you did tell them like go do it. What's stopping you? You know what I mean? And that's like the challenging thing. Yeah. So anyways, traumatizing experience, and then it was like this is the turning point, like no more.
Yeah, that guy, so that was really violent, and he hit me, he tried to rape me. It was a whole struggle. It was horrific. And I went out to my car afterwards and I was sitting there and I was like, my body was just saying no in the strongest way I could possibly say it. Like it was in bits, like I was aching all over. My hair, he'd pulled out my hair. And I was just like, okay. I was like shocked into having to look after my body even in the most minimal let's just stop doing that kind of way, you know? And that was it. And then I went to Berlin and left, and that was great because I wasn't in Dublin anymore.
And then exactly. Now it's it's
very hard to get through that story in a couple of minutes.
It's so hard. It's also, again, it's not my problem, but like it's also hard like bringing it up with you as well, because like you can and I'm assuming that
it's hard to deal with that in my personal life as well. Like
I can imagine, especially if someone wants to ask you how you are or how you're doing, and you have to probably, again I'm assuming, but you have to make that decision of like, do I really tell them? Are they ready to have this discussion?
But if they're asking me how I'm doing, they're probably all right people to be honest enough with, you know.
True. I can imagine that like you're definitely selective of who you allow into your circle.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, for 100%. But it's there is that element, and then also it's like how, like from an outside perspective, if this is happening to my friend or if this happened to my friend, how am I there for them in the best way? Because some people are like, oh, you know, it will be okay, you'll be okay. And sometimes people are like, well, I'm not okay. Like, don't tell me that right now. Listening. I think you touch on that as well. It's just like being.
Just being. Being around. Do you know? Just being around, just being there. I think that it's so not spoken about. And you can see all these kind of tips in articles and online and stuff of like how to support your friend or whatever. But like just showing up and being there and being like, I'm here, I'm just here. Yeah. Is like the best thing you can do for somebody, is just to be there.
Do you think
just to be in their life?
Did people treat you like glass at a certain point?
With regards
to like, maybe not even coming out with the book. I know that you discuss like sharing it with your friends and stuff privately. Was there a point in time where you're like, oh, they're looking at me differently? Or they're talking
it's all the time. I feel that all the time.
Do you think that's
all the time
a good, no, not even a good thing, but like, how do you deal with being like treated like broken glass? Like, are you angry about that sometimes?
I don't know if I get treated like broken glass, but what does happen, I'm speaking real generally here, because obviously I'm not going to get into stories and stuff. You get treated like a single story. So Mia, the sex trade survivor, done. And in my activism, you can get treated a bit like your role is to tell your story and that's it. And your role is not to be there in any other capacity than your survivor role.
Oh my God.
And that's, people are well intentioned and all the rest of it, and that's fine, but that's quite frustrating. So there's no survivor leadership. You know, it's not that kind of culture. It's like a re-objectification can happen. And it's not intentional. These are people who work in the feminist movement, you know, in the abolitionist movement to end prostitution. But it is a problem, and it happens. And all around the world, my colleagues, survivor colleagues all around the world say the same thing in the organisations they've worked with or have similar stories, you know. It's really common of kind of, and then if you're not paid for your work, it's re-exploitation then. So you're re-traumatising somebody, or you're inviting them to re-traumatise themselves by sharing the story with no resourcing. And financial resourcing is a good way to resource somebody. So is ringing them up the night after they've given a talk at an event full of hundreds of people and checking in on them, but that doesn't happen. You know, the duty of care towards the survivor, there isn't really any. And what I've experienced is like we're also not asked what would duty of care towards you look like in our working relationship, or how can we all work together? How would you like this to be? And it's not a question of like, oh, you just got to do what the survivor says. Like, that's not it. Or like infantilizing them or anything like that, or treating them like babies. It's recognizing that this is going to be different to working with your other NGO pals. Like, this is different. So you got to treat it differently, and you're going to have to treat it sensitively. And that's just what you got to do if you want to work with them. Us. Do you know? But it's a bit hit or miss, let's say, to put it mildly. Weirdly enough, when I've worked abroad, that's where I totally don't feel re-exploited. No, absolutely 100% looked after in all the ways I could have been looked after in these various places. And that's interesting as well. And I even asked them, I was like, what is the crack? Like, why is it like this in my country? And I'm not coming down on anybody here. I'm not getting into any of, you know, I'm talking
Go
about...
back to there then.
I'm only talking about one little slice, right, of my experience. But I'm keeping it very general even, and I know very sweeping. But anyway, and I asked this particular person in a different country, like, what's the story? Like, this is kind of how it's been where I am. And you guys are really looking after me. And she was like, yeah, it's interesting. She was like, I don't know what that is. Maybe we are extra wanting to, because you're not from here, we really want to look after you or something. And I was like, yeah, but I have a feeling they would have looked after
a local.
Yeah, in the same way, right? Yeah. I don't think it would have been anyway, whatever.
No, that makes a lot of sense. In fairness, I remember completely different, but I do think still on topic. Mm-hmm. I remember there was a point in time with my clips where sorry? With content clips from this podcast. Yeah. That if they get, like, let's say I edited a piece like that you're saying, put it up, and then it starts getting hate, or like a lot of people get upset. I once shared that I was like, listen, I'm having trouble with this because I feel like I need to care for the guests, you know, I have to defend them, But every time I shared that piece over here, the one thing I kept getting from is, well, if this person came on your podcast, then then obviously they are comfortable saying this sort of thing. And I feel like there's that assumption that, oh, Mia wrote this book.
She's fine.
She released it, so therefore she's fine talking about it.
Yeah.
And I do think that that's probably like what the case is. It's like, oh yeah, Mia does podcast. Yeah. Mia wrote a book.
Yeah, she's granted all this stuff.
Sure luck.
Yeah, she's over it.
That's it.
Yeah, which is so hilarious.
It's so funny. But again, it's I don't know, but like sometimes there is an element of like, listen, are you okay talking about this?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
that's sort of thing.
It's human condition, isn't it, to kind of see the product, a book, and then think that kind of thing. It's like it's human nature to. Again,
I do think that those type of people are the ones that didn't read the book.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Or they don't want to deal with their own discomfort and like, if I consider me as feelings, then that means that I need to fucking deal with more on my plate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or like if I have to consider someone's feelings here, then I have to look into maybe where I've let them down or my own sense of guilt or shame. And if I don't have much compassion as a human being for myself or others, then I'm going to avoid that.
But it's business.
But if you have compassion for yourself and others, then you'll be able to be like, yeah, I feel guilty and that's okay.
It was
That's okay. It doesn't mean I did anything wrong.
Fully.
You know? But unfortunately, a lot of us block
Yeah.
those more uncomfortable feelings. And in doing so, then can have, you know, a less than good impact on our relationships.
Mm-hmm. That's what I see anyways.
Yeah.
So like
It's
I
tricky.
stopped bringing up that topic with people because I kept getting the same response, and I'm like, I don't like that response.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna like talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because like sure, like we all have our own responsibility for our own feelings.
But also I don't really buy that. I think we have responsibility for the reality of the present moment that we're in. Right? It doesn't mean I have to look after somebody else's feelings, but it's like I can
read you.
Yeah,
like
I can respect and name it, you know. But the other thing you get sometimes is people being overly kind of concerned about you. That's another thing. So just like, I know it's a tricky thing. I'm not saying it's not, but like just saying, I don't know what to say, or is it okay if I say this, or I feel really uncomfortable talking about this. That's all brilliant. Do you know what I mean?
Acknowledging that, I think.
And believing the person when they say, yeah, no, I'm good to talk about it. They're like, all right, I don't need to ask again.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'm giving out loads. Like
we're giving out loads, but it's okay. You know, like I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. But then people are so sweet and caring as well. Like, you know, it's not.
Yeah. Like they're not all we're not all assholes. You know what I mean?
No, it's not a black or white thing. It's human nature. Yeah.
Can you imagine if like we go like, actually, Deb, I don't want to do this podcast anymore. Okay, so we got into that. Now, what's very interesting is that you touched on something where you were saying that in that moment in time, there was this sort of like false feeling of power that you had. So there's that I'd like to touch on. And then something interesting as well that you said, which we're going to go into, is you felt that because you took money, that it was consensual.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like an argument that a lot of people are saying, where it's like, no, this is like... if we make prostitution a crime, that means that we're going to rule out all the people that are consenting to this.
Yeah, it's consenting adults.
Consenting adults. Now, this is where the research came in, because I wanted to bring in not just your book, but I also wanted to bring in the numbers and all that kind of... Look.
Okay. Yeah, nice.
Thank you. So... I'm gonna start off first of all because I do have like a little bit of like an idea in mind on how we can discuss this.
Okay.
But first I want to dive into your book. We're always gonna start with your book here.
Can I go to the loo real quick?
In fact, you can. All right. So what you said on page 133 is, we're sold this warped picture of what liberation for women is supposed to mean, what equality is supposed to mean, by apparently subverting the male gaze by using it for our own, in inverted commas, gain. But we're all being groomed without realizing it. It seems to me that although there has been some progress towards women's equity, we are going backwards when it comes to women's sexuality. The backlash against feminism is bigger than I've ever seen it. You've touched on that at the start of our chat. With men going their own way groups, men's rights activists, involuntary celibate terrorist groups, and the porn-saturated online culture, where young women selling sexual pictures of themselves is seen as empowering, rather than feeding male sexual entitlement to female bodies. Young women and girls are being conditioned to absorb their own dehumanization into their sexuality, and we are celebrating it. Repressing and objectifying women's sexuality are two sides of the same coin of oppression. Either way, women's sexuality is in the hands of men. Now, what I want to go into is that then you explain this tree analogy that that has stuck with me since then. Love it.
Yeah, we did talk about this last time.
We did. First thing. But it's so important, and I love me a good visual representation.
Yeah, it's
so
good,
if you don't mind, could we dive into what you said and the difference between liberal feminism and radical feminism? You don't need to give me like a strict textbook definition.
No, yeah. Also, I'm not an expert either, so I'll probably get it
butcher
wrong.
it. Don't worry.
Yeah,
don't worry.
But my understanding of things is that let's say we talk about the objectification of women. So we've got like things like page 3, pornography, OnlyFans, prostitution, etc. If we see misogyny as this rotting tree in a park, say, and you're like, okay, that's gross, that's bad, it's a rotting tree, it's objectification of women, it's misogyny, it's male entitlement, it's gross, like it shouldn't be there. What radical feminists would like to do is tear up the whole tree and maybe plant a new tree that's a different tree. What liberal feminists do is make the tree acceptable to those who pass by. And no one's giving out then. So if you make the tree pretty and you're like, okay, it's rotting, but like it looks okay. Do you know, like it's got, you know, we'll stick on some leaves or whatever, it looks fine, right? Then nobody's going to give out. But if you're coming along to dig up the roots, you're going to make a big building site, like it's going to cause havoc in this park. People are going to complain about it, like that's gross, you know, the tree is fine, just leave the tree there, the tree is fine. Like, can we just leave the tree as it is, right? It takes a lot of effort to come along and rip the tree up by its roots. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. It's much easier to go, oh, we'll just make it look okay, and we can just kind of forget about it and pretend it's all good. That's basically my analogy. Does that make any sense? It makes a lot of sense. It's not my analogy either. I don't know where I found it. Or
that's okay. Like, I'm not going to claim it's yours. Don't
worry. I don't know where it came from.
I really like it, but like now there's a question like between you and I, but like, is that the reason why, for instance, when I said sex work, you're like, no, Deb, it's prostitution.
Yeah, no, it's prostitution.
And it's the removing the trigger warning on these kind of things. It's like, no, it's not an assault.
It's removing the palatability. Is that a word? Yeah, it's removing the comfort lens for others to see the pain. Gotcha. And it's seeing just the pain. So it's seeing the devastation and it's seeing the destruction. It's not putting a pretty, it's not wrapping it up in a bow and being like, oh, that's not that bad because there's a bow around it.
Yeah, it's like sex work. No, it's prostitution.
Yeah, it's prostitution. It's
gotcha.
Exploitation. Yeah.
I like that. And I do think that it's...
Because it's neither sex nor work. So my modus operandi is...
I like that.
Yeah, it's neither of those two things. So it's a lie. And my whole thing is about telling the truth.
Yes.
I dedicated my book to the truth tellers. That's important to me, that I honour others who tell the truth about whatever it is that's going on. Doesn't have to be about prostitution, but whatever they're seeing in front of their eyes, that they say, this is what I see in front of my eyes. And I can trust myself to say that. Because this kind of bullshit around sex work and whatever, it's so gaslighting and manipulating people and thought policing. Like, oh, you're not allowed to think that. That's bad of you or anti-feminist of you to think that way, as opposed to... allowing people to trust their own knowledge or what they see in front of their eyes. Do you know what I mean? It's like there was a tweet yesterday, I think I saw, or was it today? I can't remember. A punter wrote in a Reddit thing about prostitution in America somewhere, I think. Or no, in the UK somewhere, saying, what about this red light area? I want to pick up a girl there, but I don't know if it's a sex worker or a legitimate person, which is a hilarious word to use, or a legitimate person. I don't want to cause any offence, right? How do I approach a girl without causing any offence? So if I get mistaken, which I have done in River Island one day about 15 years ago, this just sticks in my mind, right? Somebody thought I worked there and was like, oh, do you work here? And I was like, no, I don't. And that was the end of it. I was not offended. I just carried on with my life. I've also been, men have tried to pick me up on the way home. I used to live in Stony Batter, and there's a very small now red light district there. I don't even know if it's still there, along Ben Burb Street, and or around that little pocket. And men would slow down and lower their windows and have a look at me. I'd be walking home from work, marching home from work. I used to work in an extra vision. Don't know if you remember extra.
No, as in I've been here for 5 years now. So
yeah, extra vision's long gone, gone. Okay. Yeah,
not Irish.
I used to work in an extra vision, and awful.
Is that the DVD thing?
Yeah, it's a DVD rental place. Iconic. Can you imagine the days where you'd have to go in and be like, "Can I please have this film?" And everyone knew what the film, like, just horrific. And then you have to bring it back the next day.
Yeah.
And they had a little letterbox in the door that you could post it into.
What's this? We had a DVD shop, like a rental place next to where I lived, and we'd have Kurt and my brother would run back, being like, "We met the deadline."
Yeah. Because of course, yeah. I don't know why I was thinking Extravision is an Irish only concept. Of course it isn't.
No, it wasn't. Just different names.
Yeah,
of course.
The
DVD rental
I'm like,
shop.
no, this is purely an Irish experience.
Yeah.
The only country
Just like
in the world.
poorly printed covers as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't worry. And it was from our end, I'm pretty sure that they pirated every single fucking film. Like,
But I used to walk home from work about 11 o'clock at night. We'd lock up and men would slow down, thinking they curb crawling is the word, is the term, thinking I was working on the street, which I wasn't, obviously. And that would be very frightening, very scary.
Yeah.
So it wasn't frightening or scary for someone to think I worked in River Island, but it was frightening and scary for men to think I was selling sex on the street. In the same way this person's saying, I don't want to cause offence. The punters know why it's offensive. We all know why it's offensive. The people who promote the sex trade know or advocate for the normalisation of prostitution know why it's offensive. Everybody knows the truth here. Like, everybody knows it isn't work, like working in River Island or whatever.
yeah.
If somebody mistakes me for, and people say, oh, but it's the same as being a massage beautician or whatever they're called, massage therapist, sorry. Are you selling your hands? I'm like, no, obviously not. Like, and if somebody mistakes me for being a massage therapist, I'm also not going to be offended. I don't know how that would ever happen, but I don't know how, like, I'm not going to get offended by that.
Yeah.
A man saying how much at me on the street, yeah, I'll be offended by that.
Fully.
We all know why, right? I don't think we need to even say why.
No. The objectification. Eh?
Yeah, so
Exactly.
I'm very interested, I suppose, in telling the truth. And I'm not saying my truth, the truth, right? The truth. And also, therefore, hoping to invite others to also tell the truth that they see. That we just kind of let go of this needing to, like, say the right thing or think the right thing, especially around feminism and stuff, especially for younger women who are so potentially vulnerable to feeling like they have to get it right. I'm like, you don't have to get it right. There is no right. There's just discovering. I don't know how else to put it.
Get what right?
There's
exactly.
just discovering the truth. Feminism, right? Do you
Oh,
know? Or
100%.
thinking about things the right way, or being real right
Yeah.
on and woke about everything.
Look,
just discover what's true.
That's
Allow
it.
yourself to discover what's true.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to trust your gut instinct. Like, there was that article, I think we spoke about this last time. Louise O'Neill, that author, wrote an article for the Sunday Times about prostitution, a ridiculous article, not her first ridiculous article about prostitution anyway. One of the, I can't really remember, it was out, I think, the last time we met, but I can't remember. It was about the woman who was murdered in Limerick. The woman in prostitution who was murdered in Limerick. And she said, one of the lines was, would I want to be a sex worker? No. Blah, 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 blah. And then she went on about whatever. But I was like, but why not? Like, tell us why not. If you're writing an article about butchers and you're like, would I want to be a butcher? No. Then tell us why.
Yeah.
You don't want to handle the meat, you get squeamish. What is it? Like,
Blood.
you don't want to get raped for money, maybe? I don't know. You know, it's deeply traumatizing, maybe?
Just in case.
I mean, she's pretty.
fully.
She's gorgeous. She'd make a ton of money. How crude is this, what I'm saying right now? Right? I feel it in my stomach that that's just gross how I'm speaking. But that's how they want it to be. So, okay, go do it, Louise. And then come back and tell us why you didn't like it. Because I know she's not going to like it. Come on.
And that's the interesting
So fuck
thing.
off writing about this on your massive platform in a newspaper to your extremely young, massively giant, mostly female fan base. Come on. So irresponsible, disgusting. Sorry, rant.
No, you're good. And keep ranting. But it's also, no, it's interesting because like from my end, it was like, not even with this conversation, just in general.
Yeah.
I was constantly being told, no, don't say prostitution. No, don't say sex work. No, don't say rape. Say sexual assault. And I was like, okay, if you're fucking telling me this and you've been through it, then fucking like, I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'll do. You know, I don't want to be the person.
You don't want to cause offence, yeah.
No,
sure,
no.
Of course you don't want to cause offence.
Exactly. But I didn't know that me doing that is causing offense in a different way, a greater one, where we're not talking about the truth.
Yeah. So if we even take the whole offending or not being offended out of it and just be like, what's true and what's not true, and that's all.
Yeah.
So the reason I correct everybody when they say sex work isn't because I'm offended. It's because I'm like, well, that's not the truth. Mm-hmm. So if we're talking, if we're in a conversation, then I just want it to be a truthful one. Do you know? Like, I'm not offended.
No.
Like, it just annoys me because the proliferation of that term is so strong that all the journalists use it as like, well, that's just the term we have to use now. I'm like,
Yeah.
great.
No. I agree, and like I appreciate you for correcting me. You know what I mean? And again, it's one of those things where
it's simply because it's like, well, it's just not the truth.
And if your intention, my intentions are right here, you know what I mean? Exactly. And a lot of people's are. So like, if you correcting me offended me, then it's only a reflection on me.
Absolutely, yeah.
And a lot of people like then get defensive about that and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, on the topic, there is another part which I did say, like, where you did talk about the reality of it, where it's like, listen, why is it that, I'm not going to quote you because I'll keep reading your fucking book to you, but it was along the lines of, if prostitution was consensual, why do I have trauma by it? There's a lot of sex that I regret. I feel sad about it, not traumatized by it. And you said, and that is rape.
Yeah.
And while reading articles to prepare for this conversation, a lot of people that were against the Nordic model were saying, well, we're removing a woman's choice there. You know, like, we're not going to let her choose to be involved in, they are using sex work as the term, you know what I mean? And it's like, there's no fucking choice here, dude. There's no choice. No woman is going to punch anyone when that's happening, like, in the reality of it. And you obviously can attest to it. And that's the gender-based violence there.
Yeah.
So... that,
and the Nordic model, which criminalises the purchase of sex, and decriminalises the sale of sex, actually attempts to take the choice away from the man. It takes no choice away from the woman.
That's it. Yeah. Now, with that came, so I wrote down the definition of the Nordic model for people that are wondering. So, as you said, the objective is to decrease the demand for prostitution by punishing the purchase of sexual services in order to decrease the volume of the illegal industry overall. Now, people that were arguing against it after the Nordic model was introduced, what they said is that no numbers have decreased. And that there are very few men that are getting in trouble for it and they are being penalized, but the women are still suffering.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what they're talking about.
So what was being said there is that, like, this shit is still happening and the women are still not safe by doing that, and the solution...
Yeah, because prostitution is never going to be safe. It doesn't matter what legal model you have.
And that's what people are
This is the best
legal
model that we can get. It's a really difficult thing to police. I am, again, not an expert at all in this, and I don't know. I'm not going to get into it.
No, don't worry. No, but that's the point that I'm trying to say here, that I'm trying to highlight here, is that
it's just there's no legal model, and prostitution, they say it's not going anywhere. Whatever, it's not, right? It's not going to go anywhere by my lifetime, but I do believe someday it will go away. It will be gone someday. Like, I have to keep working towards that, because I know that humanity has it in us for that not to exist anymore, for slavery not to exist anymore, for any kind of exploitation. Now, I believe in human beings. I'm not going to the lowest bar setting and going, well, men are dickheads and they're exploitative rapists, so let's just... make it easier for them to do that and create a pond of women to absorb their trauma and their shit that they're not emotionally mature enough to deal with themselves, so they just project it onto these women. And but the Nordic model is the only model that's the best of all of them. No model is perfect. It's really difficult to police this particular piece of law, and it's really difficult to get any statistics on it. And as I already said, no law is going to make prostitution safe.
That's it.
100% decriminalisation of the sex trade, which is decriminalising pimping, punting, third-party profiting, whatever, managing, agenting. So when you have decriminalisation, like, pimps turn into agents or managers, or they're now a business person,
off.
as opposed to a pimp, right? Yeah, the same for legalisation. So,
horrible.
It's the one that makes it. It depends on your. See, the thing is, it depends on your intention. So if your intention is to normalise the prostitution as sex work and it's fine, then why wouldn't you want it to be decriminalised, the whole thing to be decriminalised, because you see pimps as agents or whatever it is, fine, right? But if your thing is like it's exploitation, because it is exploitation of women and girls and boys and men, and we want to get rid of that, then of course you're going to think the Nordic model is the one, because it's the one that is aiming to decrease the demand. So we're arguing from different intentions or motivations, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a comparison that really works out. But basically nothing is going to make prostitution is inherently unsafe. Nothing can make it safe.
Bingo.
No law will make it safe.
Nothing. Of course not. And people thinking that because no law will make it safe, let's just decriminalize it. And like, what? You know?
Yeah, and then what?
Then what? Exactly.
Yeah.
Fucking just have a school, you
Yeah.
know?
So
Anyways.
they've nearly done. In the UK, there was, I can't remember what college it was, but they had packs for students considering prostitution and being like safety and sex work or something.
Stop.
Yeah, it was published and everything. Like,
Disgusting.
Yeah.
No, when reading the sort of stuff, like, it was really bad. Now, as you said, it's very hard to put numbers on it, but for people that are wondering, I did gather the numbers that are released. So, study by the WHS and Sexual Exploitation Research Program at UCD, also known as SERP, identified that 94% of those
they're migrants.
in the Irish sex trade are migrant women.
Yeah.
1/3 of them advertise between the ages of 18 to fucking 25.
Yeah.
Very little English.
Oh yeah. So a lot of trafficking and
There you go. Thank
and
you.
organised prostitution.
That's it.
Like
and
the sex trade is run by criminals.
fully.
And we're sitting around thinking, well, there's this girl on Twitter who says she loves her job, and going, oh, that's grand then.
yeah,
And meanwhile, these
6%.
These criminals are running the trade in Ireland and trafficking women all across the country.
That's it.
And men are raping them and writing reviews about them on the website, the notorious Escort Ireland website, which is founded by a convicted pimp called Peter McCormick and his partner, Audrey Campbell, sorry. I just feel like saying their names whenever I can, do you know?
I love that.
Peter
because
McCormick and Audrey Campbell. Peter
Okay.
McCormick is a convicted pimp and former RUC officer.
Oh.
Yeah, and they don't own it anymore.
Is he in prison?
Allegedly. What?
Would they be in prison? Would they be?
No, I don't think he went to
Oh.
prison at all. His son went to prison.
Son.
His son was only 23 or something, running brothels for him.
Oh.
Disgusting.
And then he doesn't get it, yeah.
I don't know what happened to the father, Peter. I know he's convicted, but I don't know if he actually went to
Well.
prison or not. I actually can't remember.
Okay.
But so this
Well,
website is notorious. Trafficking is hosted. It's been
Disgusting.
proven over and over time that trafficking victims have been advertised on this website. You can go there and look yourself. People are like, oh, it's a hidden world. It's not a hidden world. You just go on the website and look it up and look at the reviews and read them. And then you'll see what prostitution actually is.
And you also said in the book that, like, for 1,000 migrant women, there's 100,000 users.
166,000, yeah. Going
166.
on the most recent statistics of 1 in 15 men, nearly 1 in, I think
Yeah.
it's like, 1 in 15 men,
I read that.
Irish men pay for sex,
Half-
on a regular basis.
And I
yeah.
think it said half of them are not single.
Oh, I would say even more. Oh, in that study, half of them were not single. Yeah, most of the men that I saw anyway were married, were 100% married. Middle-aged, married, middle class.
Yeah. On the point of sex trafficking, between 2013 and 2019, 471 trafficking victims were identified in Ireland. The National Women's Council said that 86% of the women that were trafficked were in the sex trade and became victims of sexual exploitation, which was the trigger, like the victims of prostitution, if we're going to say the truth here. So again, what we were saying is that people say that this model doesn't work. Full decriminalisation is the thing because women deserve to choose about this sort of stuff, you know? And it's like power over your own body. What people don't understand is with such high statistics of trafficking, and the reality it is that people don't want to fucking talk about because it's so hidden, so hard to track, in fairness as well. Another study in my research said, but I didn't understand it really, it said in 2019, Ireland was the worst when it came to taking care of trafficking in Europe.
I think it's still.
So that was interesting. So of course, like, if you don't know much about it, it makes sense because it's happening under everyone's noses.
Yeah.
But with that, it's like such a high percentage, 94% of women do not have a fucking choice but to do it. You know? So giving the power to the woman is bullshit because she has no fucking power.
Well, the Nordic model, the woman does have power. She's
Exactly.
not criminalised in any which way. The only limitation on that is that the brothel keeping law exists where 2 or more women in an apartment is classified as a brothel, which is a very contentious piece of it. But that would be the only limitation on the woman. Yeah, so even if every single woman in prostitution was saying, I'm genuinely choosing it, like I did, right? This is fine for me.
Okay.
I would still want the entire thing shut down.
Yeah.
Even if there was no trafficking victim here, I would still want the whole thing shut down. Just like when there was page 3 here, I didn't know any page 3 models, and they're very few and far between, but I wanted that shut down because I don't want a culture that normalises the sexual objectification of women, because I know what happens when we dehumanize a woman or anybody, and then we're able to enact violence upon them. And that's why prostitution is so dangerous, because you're an object, you're a product to be used, and that's why you get beaten up or hit or dragged around or whatever else happens to you, because the man doesn't care. He's like, well, I'm paying for you to do whatever I want to do to you, so he's got free reign, right? He's also got no conscience, because paying has like wiped that conscience free.
Yeah.
Has wiped his conscience. I mean, do you know, where he doesn't have to feel guilty or like, oh, I was a bit rough there, or like, you know, there was one man who didn't speak to me at all. He just didn't speak to me. I know it's a real mild example, but like, it was really sociopathic. He stared at me into my eyes, but he didn't say a word to me. And he did things, obviously, but he wasn't speaking. And I remember I was so uncomfortable and I was so frightened. I was like 21 years old. And I was like, he could kill me. I just had this awareness that he could kill me. It was really weird. This like, can't explain it. I've tried to explain it in testimonials and stuff I've written when we were trying to get the law changed. I was like, this is the most bananas example to use, because like people were like, so the man looked at you like, and he thought you were going to die.
He didn't.
And I was like, no, he could have killed me. I knew I had to do exactly what he wanted. I had to be very good, right? I knew, because it was a sense. It was like there was nothing in his eyes. Like, I can't explain to you. Like, it was more frightening than the guy who beat me up at the end.
Wow.
Like, it was more frightening than him.
In fairness, it's fucking spooky.
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, it was really weird. It was really, how can you have sex? This is why it's not sex. It's just the use of your body. You're renting out the use of your body. It's not sex, because sex is like an ongoing communication with somebody, whether it's a one-night stand that you just met, or someone you're banging randomly, or a long-term partner, whatever it is. It's a communication. It's a trusting-ish communication, right? Mm-hmm. In prostitution, it's the most devoid of trust. It's the absolute opposite of trust. So you're on high alert the whole time. You're incredibly vulnerable because you're not wearing any clothes and somebody's going to be literally inside your body. You're incredibly vulnerable physically, emotionally, in all the ways. So you have to create this way of arming yourself, and that's dissociation, where you just leave the body and you're like, my body is, I'm not here anymore. I'm not. It's like literally an object that I happen to be in, but I'm not connected to it in any way. Sorry, I can't remember where I was going with that. Sorry.
You're good.
Just there's no consent. There's no...
Exactly. That's what you were trying to pinpoint. That like, prostitution is not sex because...
Like, you go and look at these reviews and then you're not reading about sex. The men write like, oh, she'd no English. There was a man in a different room. She was grumpy. She was mechanical. She didn't really seem into it. She kept saying no extra, no extra. All she could say was English. The only English terms she had was for sex-related words, which is just so sad. She could speak perfectly English on the phone. When I got there, she had suddenly had no English at all. So you're having sex with somebody who has no English whatsoever. And you're like, that's fine, that was consensual. She had no English to communicate herself.
And then the audacity.
Yeah, and then one review was like, oh, the woman pretended that I was inside her, but it was really her hand. She kept trying this trick. And I was like, you're raping her. And they know they are. They know they are. These men are not like thick. The men who go in going, oh no, but I paid and she's up for it and she's a lovely young thing and like we had a great time and kisses, can't wait to see you again. If he went into that hotel room apartment the next day and saw his own daughter there, he would know very fast what he was doing was very wrong. They know what they're doing. I cannot tell you how little they give a fuck about the women. They know exactly what they're doing. They know they're raping them. Why is there no punter support groups out there? Why is there no like punters' rights are us? Like, why is there none of that? Why is there no proud man going public on the front of the Irish Times magazine?
And you do say that in the book as well.
Where are they? If it's such
like,
a shame-free hobby, and it's just like you know, a harmless transaction, where are they? Yeah. What's the
Why
problem?
are we protecting the men that
that's what we're doing. That's
end
what
up
liberal
with all these
feminism does. Liberal feminism protects men.
Fully.
If your feminism is making men comfortable, more comfortable in their misogyny, more comfortable in their harassment or their entitlement or whatever else they're doing, then it's not feminism. Right? It's not feminism then.
I feel like people get scared with the feminist term because we get...
I know. And I just think, just get rid of that. Just talk about prostitution then. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes, fair enough.
Stop making men comfortable at raping women.
No, that is true, in fairness, because
stop
it's...
banging on about sex work as work.
Yeah.
You're just making the men sitting there going, oh, this is great. There are all these women on the internet and all these journalists and whoever else. They're all doing my work for me. I don't have to worry about it now. Because the culture is being worked by these people, these fucking idiots. Right?
No, it is true because like you and again,
I don't have to make a punter support group, not that they would because they're so deeply shamed.
No, but you did say I will find it, I did write it down, but you did say that you don't need, wait 1 second, let me fucking find it. Debbie in the future, you're gonna pretty sure that it was that, and probably it's this one. No, it is on point. Men who are well and emotionally mature do not pay women for sexual access. If we deny men who pay for sexual access their full humanity, we may as well resign ourselves to the status quo. However, punters will not hold themselves accountable. It is up to all of us not to be passive. And that's on your point right there. There.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about it. Sorry, I know you got something there. Do you want to go on?
No. I love it when you talk.
Sorry, my back hurts as I'm moving around. Friend of mine years and years and years ago, I think I might have told this story the last time we met. I'm not going to give away his details, whatever. He'd probably kill me. But he was working on a building site and it was a small team and it was a very long project. So he's just with these guys. Oh, yeah. And that was fine. And then he was telling me one day, this is years ago, and I was talking about these issues. And he was like, oh yeah, I was working this building site and at lunchtime or whenever, during breaks, a very regular thing would be for some of them to look up this website I mentioned, founded by that convicted pimp Peter McCormick, and look up girls on it and even compare girls and show their phone and be like, talk about how they're going to go and pay this girl for sex or whatever. And my friend was like, he's a guy, he was grossed out by this. Obviously, he's a really good person. And he was just like, oh, so gross, blah, blah, blah. I was so uncomfortable. And I was like, what did you do? And he was like, nothing. And I was like, would you not like have said, what the fuck are you doing? This is disgusting. Like, you guys are gross. And he was like, no, because I would have been ostracized for the next 6 months in this tiny little group of men. And I was like, so? Like, at the time I was very understanding because I still am a little bit too overly understanding. I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. Of course, that's why men don't stand up to other men or their peer groups or whatever, because of course they don't want to be pushed out. That's a natural human instinct. But now I'm kind of like, so?
Yeah.
So what? They don't talk to you until the job, for the rest of the job. Like,
it's okay.
So?
Yeah.
You're an adult, like.
And also, it's...
Jesus Christ, like, the women have to put up with getting raped. I think you can put up with exiting a WhatsApp group or giving out to...
Or just telling them,
men.
Listen, don't fucking say that shit. You know? And again, you did say it in your book. Men hold the key to ending all of this. Because unfortunately, men will not listen to women.
Yeah, and even when my book coming out and everything, not all, but a lot of the internet stuff, let's say, social media stuff, right? So whatever about that. But like a lot of it was like, well, like she chose it, blah, blah, blah. Some of the reviews written about my book, these reader reviews are like, well, I don't really see, well, the one actually was like, I don't really see what the problem was. This is just a book of just moaning about her choices, blah, 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 blah. Like people don't understand. And we'll do anything we can. This is a normal human behavior. It's a cognitive bias to blame somebody or something that's easier than the truth. So the truth is men are capable of great harm against women, and they do enact great harm against women, and misogyny is rampant in this country and way worse than lots of other countries. Male violence against women is like epidemic levels, and we don't want to see that, so we blame the victim. We're like, well, she chose to do it. So
the lady in Limerick, I did not see any fucking marches for her.
There was a vigil, yeah.
Was there?
Yeah.
I didn't
Down
see a
in Limerick,
media
I think.
outcry over here. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, it was
I
a
don't
very. She was.
sound bad.
She was. There was a few elements to it. I think. First of all, she was foreign, so immediately down.
Yeah.
And she was also in the country for a few weeks. There was multiple
Which
things
is even
put her
more
into
fucking dodgy.
Yeah, which put her into the shadows a bit, and the fact she was in prostitution, obviously.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
no one wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Now, on the topic of what you were saying here, before we dive into the last piece of this conversation, which is how men hold the key to this, this is what I wanted to point out when you were talking about like being a radical feminist and speaking up. So what you said here is that angry women are seen as hostile and are dismissed. If I didn't want to be dismissed, sorry,
Yeah.
my accent is coming out now. I didn't want to be dismissed. I wanted to be listened to.
Mm.
I already knew somewhere that men hold the solution to the ending of male violence. And why is it that men, we touched on this before, why is it that men will only listen to men? And that's because they don't respect us.
Well, and also because they just relate more. And I don't want to talk too much about what I think men are thinking because I don't know.
You're not a dude,
But this is my vibe, is like, same way men aren't really my role models, right? Women would be, although in fairness, a few men. But ironically, Jackson Katz is one of my heroes, and he works specifically on men to change male culture. And he's an amazing person. And there's a list of books at the back of my book, recommended reading, and his is one of them. And he's one of my heroes. Rob Jensen is an author and academic in America. He's another one of my heroes who wrote Radical Feminism for Men. And he wrote a book called Getting Off, which unfortunately can't get anymore. It's out of print, but I have the PDF if you want. It's great.
Yeah,
and it's about porn and it's about men, and it's wonderful. So ironically, my heroes are actually men who are working on men. But I think it's only
doing the work, eh?
They're doing it. They're heroes. And
unfortunately, though, they get trapped into this stupid box, which is like, oh, you're a pussy. You know, if you're doing all of this, it's like they're not seen as not all the time. They're not seen as heroes by other men sometimes.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure they're not. Yeah,
exactly.
Sure, they're not. Yeah, yeah. He's a hero for me, of course, because I believe so much in it, and it's so personal for me. You know, and I live for hope. You know, that's how I kind of live, in hope of things changing and being better, and therefore me feeling better about my own past, because it's like it's a circle, right? But yeah, it makes sense that men don't see, and men are going to listen to me. Like I used to be really into thinking men would listen to me, and of course they don't. They're not going to. Like naturally, they're not going to.
I know, and I agree with you. It's just fucking annoying.
Yeah, it is
and
annoying.
I understand.
But also, I don't think I have the answers. And I think as well, like I used to do these talks in schools, and I found them very uncomfortable. Like going in to talk to 15-year-old boys about me being raped, and like going on about the pyramid of violence against women. Like it starts with like can't actually remember what it starts with, beliefs and stuff like that, and then it goes up, and the very top is like murder, and then it's like rape and whatever else. Do you know what I mean? Like the food pyramid.
Never heard of it, but like it makes a lot of sense.
It's like the food pyramids.
Okay.
And
sugar at the top, murder.
Yeah, exactly.
Love
exactly
it.
like that. And then like your beliefs and whatever, cultural beliefs and so on, like women are caregivers or whatever it is. That's like down the bottom. Yeah, so I go into schools and tell them about my rape, me being raped. I hate saying my rape, me being raped. And then talk about the thing in a bid to get them to understand. It was part of the White Ribbon campaign, to get them to kind of change their behaviours. And I'm like, I'm coming in here. That's what I was saying to you earlier about the top-down process and thing. I'm coming here going, here's what you should think. Here's what you should do. This is bad. And I'm kind of saying to the kids, you might end up being bad. Don't be bad. You know what I mean? And like that wasn't what I was saying, because obviously I'm gentle in how I do things. But like it never sat okay with me. I felt very uncomfortable about the whole thing. And then I was like, no. Maybe with adults that might be okay, but like in their 30s and 40s and so on, and even that, whatever. But like, I don't know. But I think with teenagers, and again, I don't know anything about kids or teenagers or teaching or anything like that, but like to listen to them and to listen, and to give them space to discuss what they see and hear online, to help them change from within themselves whatever the toxicity that is they're being fed, right, or seeing or getting off to or whatever it is. That I think that's that elicitation thing I was talking to you about earlier about like teaching English, but it's across the board, right? Mm-hmm. That like we listen and facilitate the change or the growth, whatever it is that we're facilitating, rather than like what I used to do with White Ribbon, go in and be like, here's my sad story, now you'll feel bad, and also here, don't be bad, here's how not. Like, that just didn't feel... And then, of course, afterwards, I get all these girls come up crying to me about their experience, and I'm like, this isn't helping anybody. Like, this isn't helping. Well, I didn't feel good about it anyway.
No. And also, I think it's not a difficult one. It's fairly like straightforward as well. But like, if a 15-year-old boy is being exposed to so early on at the age of 12 to porn and all that kind of 10 crazy stuff, not okay. But if he also is feeling certain urges, he's embarrassed to talk about them and admit to them, because if that talk happened, it's like, horrendous. Oh, I'm a bad guy, you know?
Yeah, but also horrifically embarrassing. That's 100%. Why you need to have like an outside, a separate brain. Someone who comes into the school or something, I don't know, here I am talking about something I've known nothing about, but like, you know,
don't worry, it's a podcast.
You need to have someone separate to your parents to like talk about this stuff 100. With, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you can't be
and
like,
also it's like
the parents might be
approach.
completely inept and be like, oh no, we don't talk about that. Oh no, we're not.
Oh yeah, also we're in Roman Catholic fucking central, you know? Same back home, Roman Catholic. It's we don't talk about those things.
Yeah, and we're still not great about talking about feelings.
But it's like creating the right role models and bringing them there.
And allowing the kids to talk about, again, I'm still going on with something I don't know anything about, but allowing them to talk about what they find scary, because girls and boys both find pornography scary. Teenage girls, little 13-year-old girls and boys, they both are frightened by porn. And girls are scared of having sex then. Right, and boys feel this pressure of like, this is how, so porn teaches boys, this is what you do. Porn teaches girls, this is what gets done to you. So this is what to expect. And to boys, this is how you enact, this is how you act in sex, this is how sex happens, this is how you should do it. So it's really dangerous. I don't know, I had something else to say there, but I can't remember. It's gone.
That's okay, we'll bring it back. So I feel like everything has been brought back, so it's all good. What you wrote over here is peer influence is the greatest motivator for change, which is very true. And this is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, exactly that, like my friend in the building site.
Yeah. Abusive men don't care what women are saying or doing. They care what other men are saying and doing. We want it to be a point in time where fucking hell, it's the norm for men to support women, you know? Where the fucking 35-year-old is ashamed to say said shit, you know? Yeah. And
because if he does, he'll get kicked out of his group. That's 100%, the idea.
But like we got so close. And then those fucking dum-dums, Andrew Tate and the likes of all that saw...
It's backlash, it's backlash. The progress,
The gap in the market. Such a huge gap in the market that now we're back to saying it's okay because facts don't care about your feelings.
We need antidotes to Andrew Tate and whatnot. We need like an opposite.
We do. And I really hate how I keep fucking bringing him up, and it's good because it's like I know I'm bringing on sound people, men included, that are talking against him, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's one of those things where it's like, first of all, seeing him getting charged and men saying like, oh, like he's not guilty, he did amazing things for me and all that stuff. But also, like, to understand that he keeps saying that he's opening up men's eyes, when in reality he's like, oh, I'm teaching men how to be the traditional man, but also my business is a webcam business.
It's sex trafficking, yeah.
Fully. Sex trafficking. And I gladly talk about putting other men into debt. Because they're addicted to fucking porn. But yes, give me 12,000 so that like you can access this girl. You know what I mean? Your like what's it called? Your mantra is fucked up. And it's fucked up because you're ruining other men as well.
Yeah, and then they're going to ruin women.
And ruin women, and the cycle goes on. Another thing, traditional men. He keeps talking. I saw a clip him talking about how he has 10 kids, different baby mamas. Is that tradition? No.
What does traditional man even mean?
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Traditional man is I am, in his eyes.
Basically, I'm in control.
Not just in control, but it's like I am bringing money to the table and my woman is taken care of. My woman is taking care of the family and all that kind of stuff. Oh. Macho.
Yeah, gotcha.
Basically. Very fucking wrong. Yeah. But it's also like, are you considering the amount of time you fucking have to be talking shit about women? You could be raising all these kids.
All these 10 children.
Anyways, I've gotten hate for that all the time. But anyways, like, I don't think I'll ever have his name out of my mouth. I think it's just so annoying.
Hopefully he'll go to prison soon. Hopefully.
I think people will still be in solidarity with him. I'm really happy that it's in fucking Romania. It's going to sound really sad, but like he thought that he would get to Eastern Europe and get away with all of it because corruption and all that kind of shit. And it's like, you are so dumb. Because the one thing that Europe does is if they want you fucking down and if you're causing harm, they'll fucking do it. Like, you're not going to get paid anywhere by anyone because you're a foreigner in that country too. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where like there's no one there to look out for you.
Yeah.
Because you have no family, you have no connections there.
Yeah.
Silly goose.
I'll tell you something real quick. There's a convicted trafficker called David Archer, UK British trafficker, pimp, slum landlord, and he served, he had a 13-year sentence for sex trafficking in the UK. He served 6 years of that. He got released and he immediately came to Ireland, and he was selling his paintings, his really terrible paintings. They're so bad. I shouldn't be laughing, but they're so bad.
But art is art, Mia.
On the, Stephen's Green, the painting weekends they have, the exhibition weekends they have. So he was wearing his little fucking summer hat. And a journalist from the Indo approached him, Paul McWilliams, I think, and was like, "Oh, here, you're in Ireland, I see." And your man got very defensive or whatever. He's supposed to sign on. He was arrested there because he was supposed to sign on as a sex offender, something like that. I'm very grateful that this Indo journalist was aware of him and was following him and tracking him and writing about him, because this man is responsible. He also was acquitted for I think 7 rape cases or something like that, or rape charges. So he's a rapist as well, right?
Full package.
Yeah. And he's in Ireland selling his paintings, and he got evicted from it. He was renting a flat or something and crammed it full of 18 beds or something like that. He was going to start a slum landlord business here as well. He got evicted there, and so who knows what the fuck he's doing. But he's an absolute danger to women and girls. He's a predator. He's a sex trafficker. He was supposed to be in prison for 13 years. That's a long time. And nobody cared. Nobody from the pro-prostitution, as far as I could see from my internet looking around, which isn't much, but there was no single moment of outrage or this man is not allowed to be here. We do not tolerate a sex trafficker. So the same people that say, "Oh no, decriminalise this, trafficking's bad, but sex workers work," they don't actually care when a sex trafficker is actually in Ireland selling his shitty paintings of Bono on Stephen's Green. You have to look them up. They're really bad. He has a painting of Boris Johnson, and Boris Johnson has Google him, David Archer. Boris Johnson has a Pinocchio nose. Oh, it's why would you? Why? No one's going to buy that. No one's going to put that in their living room.
Oh man.
Or any of the other.
Sometimes you go, what the fuck are we doing here, mate?
But I was really surprised. I was so I'm going to pop into the next weekend, which is next weekend, the art thing, Railings Things Back. So I'm going to see if he's there. And I doubt it very much. I've also messaged the people who organise it. I'm like, "Are you aware that this person is there?" They saw my message, the way you can see that, but never replied. And we need them to go. Now, of course, we're never going to have that person selling paintings again.
And also they can't fucking pull any of that innocent until proven guilty, because he was found guilty.
Yeah. I'm surprised they haven't read back to me, actually, because people are very uncomfortable about this topic. Actually, that film I was telling you about, which again I've forgotten the name immediately, I was reading about it in obviously I went down rabbit holes afterwards because I was so traumatised watching it. And your man, or woman, sorry, it was a woman, is Jackie or Jack, I think the director was saying they found it very difficult to get a distributor for it because everybody was so uncomfortable with the topic.
There's a current thing going around right now. There's a film about trafficking children, and Mel Gibson actually made a statement about it. Dana White, UFC. He also said that he's
is there some conspiracy around that film or something?
I have no idea. I didn't look into it. I'm talking about it from a social media perspective. That apparently Netflix, Hulu,
Apple, they all rejected it, did they?
All of them.
Yeah. But it's the same reason lots of people in my life are really weird to me about my book and won't acknowledge it, won't talk to me about it. Won't even say congratulations. These are people in my life. Like, this isn't like random strangers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people are very uncomfortable.
They're very uncomfortable, I do think.
And they don't want to look at it.
There's that.
And they don't wanna look
also,
at themselves.
it's something that you read in your book. Honestly, like, I really look up to you in a certain... Not to make it weird, but like... you know, but like, you're such a good writer, you know. But you said something in there, and I can't remember it exactly, but it was along the lines of like... If it was on the topic of shame, where if
it's somebody else's shame.
Exactly, but the way I translated that into my into my life as well is like, I feel like since people keep telling me that I intimidate them, it's like a successful woman, a strong woman usually, is like intimidating to them. So what they do is they don't fucking congratulate you because it will make them feel small. And that's a really interesting one. And I spoke about it in an interview before you. The amount of guests that are over there, they come back to me and they're like, Deb, really good interview. I'm getting loads of feedback on it. And I was like, fuck me, I didn't even get one message. You know, like, I'm not saying I deserve, you know, the two and all that kind of thing. But it's like, why am I not getting acknowledged here? You know? Is it a reflection on me? Am I doing a shit job? But I don't think I am, because if you enjoyed the podcast, it's not just, it's a fucking, like, we're dancing here. Yeah. And that's really annoying as well. It's like, if I congratulate Mia on her book, that I don't have a book, maybe. Or, did you read it? No, I didn't. Like, there's something that will make them look smaller, they think, in their head.
Or it's uncomfortable for them. They don't know what to do, what to say. Yeah. So they just avoid it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think after reading it, I was like ready to fucking slam shit, basically. And I really appreciate you coming again, honestly, because I was really sad afterwards.
Yeah, of course.
It was a really good chat. It was a very important one. And if there's anything, so you're working on a novel. When's that? We don't know. We don't have a date, do we?
Oh no, God, no! There's no deal or anything. Jesus,
but
no.
Like,
this novel might not even ever exist. Like, I don't know. I wrote it years and years and years ago. I wrote the first draft of it in like 2016 or something.
What can people do to maybe follow you, help the cause, or if they want to be like good people, besides fucking listening to this and actually holding other men accountable and women?
They can buy my book. They can buy other survivors' books and other books about prostitution. If they like reading, they can give my book to people.
That's it.
That's what I do. I give it away because I'm like, I know a lot of people aren't going to get around to buying it. And so I give it away to people that I want, you know, that I'm like, you're actually going to read it, right? Yeah, if people want to connect with me, I'm always open to that online. They can just find me, just Google me.
That's it. Yeah. Very easy to find.
Very easy to find.
Thank you so much, Mia.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for listening and watching. Bye bye.